All right, so the instrument we're going to talk about today is going to be the Montana jack. Now, this is one of my favorite instruments to use, and I'll kind of explain a few reasons why. So this is a sickle scaler. Remember, a sickle scaler is anything that has two cutting edges on each side, comes to a point, and the face of the instrument is perpendicular to the actual terminal shank. So this is going to be a true sickle scaler. What's nice about it is, yes, if you look at it, the entire shank is more of a complex shank, meaning it's designed to get really well in the posterior. However, my favorite spot to use this is actually in the anterior teeth. Because it's so skinny, it can actually get in between crowded teeth extremely well in the anterior. So when those teeth are overlapping and crowding and there's calculus in there, it's really tough to find an instrument that's skinny enough to get in there. And that's always going to be my Montana jack. My favorite. Or another spot I'd like to use it is in the premolar area, mainly on the lingual side. When you're going to be seeing calculus on the lingual side, it's right underneath the contact where those two teeth touch. That's where most of the calculus is going to be, on those premolars, and the Montana jack just gets up and underneath where that calculus is so well. All right, so let's talk about how to use this instrument. So how to find the correct end on the posterior teeth is you are going to, like all instruments, find the terminal shank first. It's going to be right here, okay? Then go interproximal. Put the instrument actually in between the teeth. Do you see the line that these teeth make when they come together? Make them parallel with each other, okay? And keep the terminal shank straight up and down. Where does that handle come out? Do you see it? It's coming out the anterior of the mouth. That's the correct end, and this works for all surfaces, okay? So I'm going to keep the same end for all of them. It's not an area-specific curette, okay? So let's show what the incorrect end looks like, okay? So I'm going to take that terminal shank, have it straight up and down with that line of the teeth, and the handle's coming out where the person's ear should be, which is impossible to do, okay? So that's the incorrect end. Let's talk about how we're actually going to scale with this. So remember, whenever you're using a sickle scaler, you have to lean over towards the tooth surface in order to get on the cutting edge. Okay? You can't be straight up and down. You won't be on a cutting edge at all. You have to lean over just a hair, okay? So when you're going through and you're cleaning, you're going to lean over a little bit. Roll into the distal, come out. I don't know why, but I like to do oblique strokes when I do this. You can do straight up and down strokes. Either are acceptable, but for some reason I'm always in the habit of doing oblique strokes. Okay, so I'll scale here. Now this instrument isn't really designed to go sub. And as you become a better hygienist and the tissue allows you, sometimes you can go a tiny bit sub if you would like with it, but it's really not designed that way because it's a sickle scaler. It has a cutting edge on both sides. And you're going to then roll in to the mesial. There really shouldn't be calculus or here, but it could be stain that you're picking up if there's anything here. But just remember, when you're rolling into the mesial, you're leaning, you have to tip that handle up just a little bit. Distal, your handle can be just laying nicely outside the mouth. This one, you have to tip it up just a little bit in order to be on the cutting edge. If I stay straight up and down like this, I'm not on a cutting edge. So lean it up a little to be on the cutting edge. Okay, let's do another tooth. Okay, so I'm going to be leaning towards the tooth surface that I'm working on. Rolling into that distal, coming out, and then again, I like to do oblique strokes, but again, you can do straight up and down. It's up to you. I feel like oblique strokes, I feel like I can lean my handle in a way that allows me to lean towards the tooth better, because when I'm straight up and down, I hit the top teeth here, and I'm not able to lean against the straight buccal. So when I actually do oblique strokes, I can lean a little bit better into that tooth surface, and I'm on the cutting edge better. Try that out, play around with it, you'll notice that. It's going to be harder to get onto the cutting edge on the mesials than it is the distals. Distals, it's going to be so easy to be on the cutting edge. Mesials, you have to actually think about leaning into that tooth structure in order to actually be on the cutting edge. This one is so much fun. Again, please, if you've never tried it, it's by PDT. It's a great instrument that they have designed, and once hygienists have it in their kit, they're almost always going to want it in their kit. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Montana Jack on the anterior teeth. Now, you have to figure out what your dental hygiene instructor wants you to do, or if you're a hygienist practicing in the real world, pick what you want to do, okay? Now, I was always taught when you use these instruments, in all the videos I've seen, and I've looked at lots, and even PDT, I've looked at their videos, and when they use this on the anterior teeth, this is going to be the end that you're going to select. So what happens is your handle, so you're going to line up your terminal shank, and you're going to lean your handle towards the surface you're working on, because we don't ever want it to be straight up and down. And as you can see, I'm going to try and show this, my entire handle wants to lean that way. You see that? So here's the terminal shank, and everything else leans that same direction on that surface that I'm working on. So it all leans together. Now this has been the correct end that I have always used as a hygienist. You have to lean in order to be on your cutting edge. Okay, so it would look like that, straight up and down. It's kind of really tough for me to be on my full cutting edge straight up and down here, but I will be when I roll interproximal. Now, one of my good friends from Normandale Community College came up to me and said, hey, have you ever used a sickle scaler or universal in using the other end? And I said, well, no, that just sounds crazy. And she goes, just do me a favor and just try it. So I did. And so that would be the end where if you look, you line up your terminal shank and your handle wants to go the opposite way of the surface you want to lean towards. Okay, it looks like this. Hope that kind of makes sense. If you have a Montana Jack, just play around with me. Okay, so the handle doesn't lean towards the surface I'm going on like the other one, okay? And so I tried that, and it lays really nicely in my hand. I was surprised, and I'm actually on a cutting edge a lot better. Like naturally, I feel like I'm just on my cutting edge even more when I use it with the other end, okay? So what I'm saying is, I think some instructors might teach it a different way than what I normally have learned how to do it. But I can tell you, since I've switched the ends on these anterior and started to do it what we consider the opposite end, I love it more. I can get on my cutting edge a lot more. So if you're in school, go with what your instructor says. I highly recommend trying both ends. The only tip that I have, well, I have a lot of tips for you. One thing I want you to make sure that you're doing is line up that terminal shank with the straight of those teeth, and no matter what, you have to lean your instrument towards the surface you're working on, so it would look like this. That's what you have to do in order to be on the cutting edge. Don't lean it too much, otherwise you're just going to be on the face of the instrument. So no matter which end you decide to do, here's the other one. The handle wants to naturally lean away from the surface you're working on, and then you just lean in, and you're just on a beautiful cutting edge. Okay, and it rests so good in my hands. Okay, but no matter which end you decide to do, which both you can make work, you just have to make sure you're leaning in on that tooth surface, but not so much that you're actually on the face. Okay. Don't lean over so you're on the face. So what is this going to look like when you're going and doing it? Again, you're going to cut the tooth in half. I always like to sit in my chair position. So for towards, I'm sitting in my towards chair position, meaning 8 or 9 o'clock I love. Okay, and you're going to roll interproximal. You're going to see that this instrument gets so nicely in between the teeth. where those are tight, especially when there's stain that's in between the teeth that you're just trying to get off. Okay, and then my away, I'm gonna flip this, see if you can see. So my away surface, I'll be sitting behind my patient. So no matter what I do, just make sure you're leaning in on that tooth surface just a little bit. And then there's still a little bit of calculus along the gum line. I'm gonna go back and kind of get that. And then if this is stain, I'll probably pick that up with something else, like with a rounded toe. I like to pick up stain really nicely with the straight of a rounded toe there. Okay, so that's how it's going to look with the Montana Jack in order to get in between the teeth. Again, my favorite spot to use a Montana Jack is on these linguals here. So again, I'm going to use the new way of, I'm going to be working on the mesial here of this tooth. And again, here's so I normally want to lean in to the tooth surface I'm working on, and you see the handle wants to kind of lean the opposite way. That's the end that I'm using right now, and I just love it. I love it, love it, love it. So I'm going to roll in a proximal. Oh, it just gets between those teeth so well. And even at where the contact is, where the two teeth contact right here, there's still some stain above that. This instrument just gets up into that stain so nicely. Okay. So this isn't my favorite instrument for the straight lingual or facial of these teeth. Again, I will go back. I'll just get the interproximal, go through, clean out all the interproximal spaces, and then I will go back with either the 1314 Gracie Curette or something that has a beautiful, like my McCall's, that has a nice rounded toe, and I will put the rounded toe directly on lingual of the tooth, or I will just scale it up and it will come off really nicely. I wish I had that with me right now, but I don't, to show you. So this is the Montana Jack. It is one of my favorites. I'm surprised it took me this long to actually do a video on the Montana Jack, because I love this instrument, and I hope you do too. So thank you very much for the student who requested this video. It was a lot of fun making.